Welcome back. This is Tucker. Let's talk weather. A severe weather outbreak has begun, and I expect it to be the biggest we've seen this month. But that might not last long because the next potential outbreak has already caught my attention too. Severe weather has been pretty quiet to this point in the month, but it's really changing right now, and that is a trend that is going to continue into the later days of this month too. Here's the severe weather I'm tracking right now. This is in Nebraska, but it's a multi-day threat, and it's going to take us into the upcoming weekend. And beyond that, the next wave of severe storms, which very few people have been talking about yet, I'm going to give you an in-depth look at so you can plan ahead. And in the meantime, we'll be live right here on some of these bigger severe weather days covering storms as they occur. So be sure to check back and subscribe. I'm starting you off with what we're seeing outside right now. We're going to do this briefly, but this is Wednesday night into Thursday morning. A level 2 risk across the Dakotas into Nebraska, as well as portions of Iowa and Minnesota, primarily for large hail, but also a tornado potential, especially in Nebraska. But that threat increases a lot as we head into Thursday. We have this level 3 risk out here across portions of Wisconsin, and that still also gets into Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. But there is a big catch here that we're going to get to when we get to the timing, because even though it's level 3 risk, I see high tornado potential even outside the primary risk zone here, and that is still a moderate tornado risk there, but I have big concern into this portion of our zone too, and I'm going to explain to you why that is when we get to some of our further maps. But so you know, Thursday is a potentially big tornado day, along with the risks of large hail and damaging wind across a good chunk of the Great Lakes region and beyond. As we move this into Friday, the threat shifts farther south. Now this is getting into states like the Mid-South, still a lot of the Midwest. We have once again this level 3 severe weather risk across states like Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. And once again, this also presents some unique concerns that we're going to get into, as this isn't going to be the most straightforward outbreak, and there are a couple things that we're going to get into right now. Here's what we get ourselves into as we head into your Thursday morning. Our storm system centered there across the Dakotas, and actually quite strong too. And you're looking at the morning right now, where storms will still be ongoing from overnight, and there is a lower level severe risk still across the Dakotas and into Minnesota. But watch as we get into the later afternoon, and you're going to see a lot of storms pop up here, especially across eastern Minnesota into northern Illinois through the state of Wisconsin. That's where our severe weather threat really begins to burst. And we're looking at a general timing here around 3, 4, 5 o'clock as that happens. As we move into the evening, you're seeing these storms continue to spread to the north and east, but you're also noticing a lot of gaps between the storms here. You know, this isn't a perfectly well put together line of storms, and there's going to be a lot of isolation in these severe storms too. Now, here's the key. Even though we have the highest severe weather risk, if you recall, across Wisconsin, the storms that form to the south of Wisconsin have just as high potential, if not higher, to be significant severe weather producers. It just happens to be that in Wisconsin, more storms are likely to pop up. That's why the threat is higher. But I want you to take every storm seriously, because while they may be more isolated, they may be even stronger to the south of Wisconsin. This right here explains that, and I'll keep it brief for you, but when you have that curvature on your hodograph, that red line, when you have a big gap here between the white and red lines, and when these numbers are greater than 7, and that's putting it really simply, tells you have a tornado, wind, and hail threat. Hail especially looks pretty big to me here. Continuing into Friday now, we see storms pop up in the morning in a couple spots. And what we're looking at here is not a huge severe weather threat, but I mean, I could see some hail pop up in those areas in the morning. It's really once we get to the mid and late afternoon that once again, we see more storms pop up, and those are likely to be popping up in southern Illinois and in south central Missouri. And that's where the greatest severe weather threat is going to be, again, across this area here. We will see more storms pop up here on Friday from what I've seen, and the ceiling for these storms is once again very high. Also, you may be noticing that we don't have as many gaps between our storms here, which suggests we may have more clusters, more lines. This looks like a bigger severe weather day to me, and personally, I would expect this to be upgraded to a level 4 in some places, which is a really big deal. So especially, if you're in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, those are states that are more likely to be impacted on Friday. And this is mainly going to be mid-afternoon into the early overnight hours. You're actually looking here around 10, 11 o'clock. This is past midnight. Storms do weaken as they move into the south here, but do carry some inherent severe weather potential too. And once again, you see our curved red line here. That's tornado potential. A huge gap here between the white and red line. That tells you there's a lot of energy in the atmosphere, and These numbers being high, again, is suggestive of large hail potential, and it really looks like a pretty significant day to me. Lastly, I will add, even though we don't have a severe weather outlook out yet, Saturday, I am keeping an eye on the potential for some severe storms in the Northeast as this system moves away. The potential doesn't seem that high, but I could certainly see a level 1, possibly a level 2 risk out of that. The storms in the south, though, simply move on, other than a few that may pop up in this part of the country, but I'm not thinking too much about severe weather out there, at least for now. We're going to talk about actually the next big wave of storms that's about to come in after this one. We're now going to take a look at that next severe weather outbreak, but in the meantime, also let me know in the comments where you're watching from and if you have any weather questions. If I can elaborate on something, help you understand something better, or simply give you a personal forecast in more detail where you're from, I'd love to help you out, so don't be shy. If you watched my last video, you know we were talking about another outbreak after this current one, and the Storm Prediction Center already giving us some agreement with that forecast as they have this level 2 risk in effect for Sunday, the 18th, and another level 2 risk in effect. This is on Monday, the 19th. So we're looking at 2 back-to-back days with potential severe weather, and I certainly expect more than that. And additionally, I would be very surprised if these areas are not broadened and also upgraded at some point, because the potential looks pretty high. And I'm going to give you an idea of what I'm looking at now and explain why I believe that. If you've been subscribed or have watched my videos for a while, you know we talk a lot about the jet stream, and it's super important and super interesting, but let me tell you why it's a big player now. And as we move into your Sunday next week, I want you to note those red and purple colors showing up on the west coast and making that U shape here. You see that? That's our jet stream diving south and curling back north. That is a sign of trouble. First off, you have those bright colors, which indicate a stronger jet. That's more wind energy being injected into the atmosphere. When you have instability and you have wind energy, you make severe weather. And I can tell you here, we're looking at instability because of that U shape. And really all this is a sign that you have colder weather. Put the C there for cold. Colder weather in the upper atmosphere. That helps with the instability. So that's why, usually right out ahead of this, that is where we're looking at our greatest severe weather threat. And it is very apparent on Sunday in those south central parts of the country. Now, as we move this into Monday, our jet actually strengthens and it continues to make that dip. And I believe Monday, you already saw that level 2 severe weather risk. I believe Monday is going to end up being at least a level 3 day, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it has potential to be even higher than that too. Once again, your jet very strong here. You're going to have plenty of instability. This, to me, appears to be a threat that may be quite broad, something like this, even though the severe weather risk is only in effect for Kansas and Oklahoma. But once we get more certainty, we'll be able to pinpoint the areas at highest risk. And as I move this forward even into Tuesday, though we don't have an outlook yet, I would not be surprised depending on how this system evolves. And there is some uncertainty here, but if this is still centered in the middle of the country, we'll be looking at a severe weather risk that largely encompasses much of the Midwest, and that's going to be just a bit farther east of the previous day. So we may have another 3-day severe weather outbreak on our hands here. What happens after that's a bit less uncertain. Now, this look is not as interesting. You don't really have that U shape, but certainly we need to keep a close eye on this. I always like to show some of the more cutting edge technology. This is from Colorado State University. It's some of their machine learning for severe weather forecasting, and I've found it does a great job. Here's that Friday risk, by the way. You can see how significant it is. Saturday still present. Even Sunday, here it is picking up on that level 2 risk. And once again, it's more broad than what's being forecast right now. And I do expect that Sunday here may be a pretty good representation, actually, of what we were just talking about. Monday as well, you can see once again this outlook more broad than what is currently forecasted, and it actually is pointing out a lot of the things we were just talking about as well. Monday looking like the biggest day for me. And then Tuesday, still have that area highlighted here. I didn't look at this actually before we started doing this conversation, but you can tell we're in agreement, and that again gives me some more confidence in the forecast. Wednesday as well, though, that threat begins to decrease. Just looks like less instability to work with, but we'll be keeping you closely updated on this. So you'll want to check back to this channel and, of course, subscribe for the latest as I, again, keep you ahead of these upcoming waves of severe weather. I know your time is valuable, so I'm going to end it on that. But if you have any questions, drop it in the comments. We will be here, like I said, live when there are some of these bigger severe weather days, so be sure to check back. And I will make sure to keep you updated with everything that I'm doing behind the scenes too, because I'm going on a storm chase in about 2 weeks. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can check here for updates on a meteorologist doing meteorologist things. But in the meantime, be safe, everyone. And like I said, let me know if you have any questions.